Good morning. Welcome to another installment of Wake Up with Ashland. My name is Eric Brooks. I am the curator here at Ashland, Henry Clay Estate. It's great to be with you this morning. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning. I'm sitting on the second floor landing looking out of the Palladian window here at Ashland, and it's always enjoyable to sit and look out at this view. Even though it's not the view that Henry Clay would have enjoyed or even some of his family enjoyed, it's still a spectacular view and a beautiful place to sit and a great place to come to you for Artifact Adventures this morning. I want to take a minute, as usual, to thank Dupree Mutual Funds for their support of this program and of Ashland. We thank them very much for their generosity, and it is largely due to their efforts that we're able to come to you today. So we appreciate that opportunity. And once again, as we've said in the past, if you enjoy this program, have enjoyed the programs we've been doing, perhaps have come out and enjoyed the grounds, etc. If you're planning to do that in the next few days when it will be nice and warm, finally, thank goodness, we encourage you to visit our website and to click the donate button and donate now. All of those funds will enable us to continue to bring you programs like this and also to maintain and make available the grounds, etc. So it's very, very important right now. So we urge you to take that opportunity, and thank you very much for doing so. Today I have an artifact that I think is pretty spectacular. I think you'll agree when you see it. It's an example of incredible craftsmanship, but it also is a really great example of just how much people admired, respected, even revered Henry Clay. And one of the ways we can measure that is by what happened when Henry Clay died. The response to his death was tremendous and nationwide. And so this is an example of that. And we'll talk about that as we go along. So we'll start by taking a look at the artifact. Stand over here so I can flip this with my glove on. Yeah, I'm afraid of that. Okay, so we'll start with this case. This is what the artifact comes in, and this is an instance where the container is not too shabby in its own right. It's a mahogany box, a pretty decent size, I would guess. 16 by 20 or 18 by 24, something like that. If you look carefully here, we've got this silver plate, which reads, "The City of New York to the family of Henry Clay." So this was a gift from the City of New York to Henry Clay's family. Now, some of you may be looking at that and thinking, man, you need to polish that. That's bad. And, excuse me, it does have some tarnish on it. And the reason we don't polish that, there are actually two that kind of go hand in hand. First of all, tarnished silver is oxidized, just like iron with rust on it. And if you remove that oxidation, you're removing a layer of the metal. So for a piece like this, if we polished it, especially if we did it regularly, we would eventually start to wear away the engraving and diminish the silver itself. So we don't do that to preserve it and maintain that engraving. The other thing is, in this case, the silver piece is inset into this mahogany. And if we were to polish this, we'd have to be very, very careful, and it would be very difficult to do because we might get the polish on or damage the mahogany in the process. So that's why this has not been polished. It's also not the part that people usually see, so that makes a difference as well. So what is the part that people usually see? Well, we'll step over here, and there it is. This is a portfolio. It is made of paper mache. Paper mache is made by mashing or grinding up paper, mixing it with a paste or other adhesive, and forming it into an object. You can make furniture, you can make picture frames, you can make all sorts of things out of paper mache. And one of the foremost makers of paper mache in the late 18th and early 19th centuries was a British man by the name of Henry Clay. So if you search Henry Clay on the web, you may come across that. It really kind of blew my mind the first time. I saw it and I thought, I didn't think Henry Clay did that sort of thing, but there is one who did, so there you go. This is paper mache, and as you can see on the cover, there's a beautiful picture. That's Ashland, and it is mother of pearl, which comes from the inside of certain mollusks. We unfortunately are missing a couple of pieces that have come loose over the years, but you can see they have copied engravings of the estate, trees that have been painted in, and the pathway, the driveway, the front of the house. And then if you go outside that, you can see the mother of pearl leaves and vines and gilt. A truly spectacular work of art, to be sure. And as spectacular as this side is, let me see if I can flip this over. This is the trickiest part of these little exercises here. This is the back side. And I'm not sure what, I think this is supposed to be the U.S. Capitol. Remember, the U.S. Capitol did not have the full dome that it has today at that time. You can see here, there are two ladies down here at the stairs and a gentleman, actually a couple of gentlemen on the stairs. Again, we've lost some of the paint over the mother of pearl inlay, but it's very, very detailed work. And if you come out to the edge, we have these little circular items. These, and some of them are still visible, others are not, are the state seals of the states in the Union at the time that Henry Clay died. Kentucky's, I think, unfortunately, is missing. I'll show it to you on the inside. But that's what these are. So it represents the chain of states in the country surrounding the national capital at the time of his death. Again, an incredible work of art. Somebody spent a lot of time making this piece in New York. So let me, again, try to manipulate this. There we go. Okay, so now we can open the portfolio. It is silk lined, and you can see that it has vellum pages. Vellum is made from skin, very finely made skin, very thin. And you can see here a monument to Henry Clay. Let's move in with his birth and death dates. And he died at the city of Washington. He died in Washington, D.C., so that's all accurate. You can see here there's a tree, a woman mourning, and mourning garb. And he is beneath the flags of the country, tied with a mourning ribbon. And again, we have the state seals around this particular image. And Kentucky's, I found it yesterday. Well, anyway, actually, I think these are perhaps labor. You can see down here in the corner, executed by David Stanton, 39 Hester Street, New York. So that's the artist. This is all done by hand. This is not printed. This is hand done in ink on the vellum. So it is a truly spectacular piece. I'll pull back again. You can see the totality. And I think these are scenes of domestic industry. I'm not seeing Kentucky's seal in there. Oh, wait, that may be Kentucky's right there. The two gentlemen shaking hands, united we stand, divided we fall, etc. These are state seals. But that's the first page. I have to be very careful as I turn these pages. They're very delicate. And you can see here testimony from the Common Councils of the City of New York, the Capitol building, again, all hand calligraphy, signed by the mayor down there in the corner. And this is testimonials from the alderman of the City of New York, beneath which somebody has actually, I guess the artist I mentioned earlier, has drawn this copy of a very famous engraving of Henry Clay called Union. This was done after the Compromise of 1850. Henry Clay is that guy right there. And these are all the people that were involved in that compromise. So it's a very, very famous piece of art, and it's been copied here by hand, and they've colored in the shield. So again, just a spectacular piece of work. That is City Hall in New York, right there. And again, you can see the lengthy testimonials, all hand calligraphed. This was an art form in itself. People spent a lot of time learning calligraphy and handwriting. And you actually have a piece in the collection, not behind me, that is a picture of Henry Clay done by someone learning calligraphy. And the picture was done to practice the calligraphy skills. And then on the last page, that's Ashland in Henry Clay's time. It looks a little different than it does today, but pretty similar. And that, again, is probably taken from period engravings. So You can see again all of the handwritten, and it's signed here by the clerk of the council. So this was presented to Henry Clay's family after he died as a testimonial of the support and feelings of the people of the city of New York. And as I say, Henry Clay was a deeply revered individual, and there is no better time to see that than when he died. When Clay died, he died in D.C. There was a funeral cortege which brought him home. He actually was the first person to lay in state in the United States Capitol, so that's quite an honor, and he set the precedent for that. But that cortege went all over the country, and his body was seen by thousands upon thousands of people, and eventually returned here to Lexington for a funeral. The funeral was on July 10th. He'd come back here to Ashland, lay in state here a night. They had the funeral on the front steps. I'm going to stand up here, come over here to this window. It's kind of, you can't see all the way into town like you could then, but imagine a funeral out front and then a procession that went down to the cemetery downtown in Lexington. So that would have gone down Main Street, all the way through town, past where the Civic Center is now, down past Newtown Pike to the cemetery. It is said that the crowd at that cemetery, at the funeral, was so great and the procession was so long that the first people arrived at the cemetery as the last people were stepping off here at Ashland. So imagine a more or less continuous line of people all the way down into town from here to the cemetery, 1.5 miles, give or take, maybe a little more, almost 2 miles. That's incredible. The estimates on the attendance at at the events surrounding Clay's death here in Lexington are between 30 and 100,000 people, which is a huge amount of people. Now today, obviously, we have football stadiums and whatnot that hold that number of people. For example, Commonwealth holds currently, I think it's 61,000, 62,000. So, that crowd might have fit within Commonwealth Stadium. But remember that Lexington, at the time of this event, was a city of 6,000 people. So for perspective, today, Lexington is, I think, about 300,000. So in order to have an event with the same order of magnitude today in Lexington, you would have to have 1.5 million people. That's insane. It boggles the mind. Every building that had walls and a roof was full of people. And when they became full, they just camped in the fields. So it was a truly momentous event, one of the more momentous events, I think, in our city's history. So that's truly remarkable. And this is not the only place that Clay had funerals. There were funerals held for Clay all over the country. New Orleans had a very large funeral for Clay. Many other cities did. Philadelphia. Of course, New York had a funeral for Henry Clay. Procession when his body came through on July 6th. So he was celebrated widely, much more so than many other figures of his time. Few of the presidents that lived in Henry Clay's era received such accolades at their death. So I think that tells you a lot about Henry Clay and why he was so immensely popular, how immensely popular he was. Now, you may wonder, why the city of New York? Why did they think so highly of Henry Clay? The reason for that is that New York was, as it is today, a center of business and the economy. It was one of the major financial markets, maybe the major financial market at that time. And Henry Clay advocated an economic plan for the country called the American System, which will be a whole other one of these. That's a whole big topic unto itself. But the basic idea was that through a strong national economy, we could be a strong country. And that appealed to New York, a business city with lots and lots of trade groups, etc. So he was immensely popular there. And the Clay family received quite a few gifts from the city of New York, including this portfolio. Here is another gift. This is a column which was meant to represent Henry Clay as pillar of the country. It is crafted of ebony with ivory ends. It is a Corinthian column, which is the highest order of Greek columns, the fanciest of the columns. The ends are ivory. It has 2 silver ornaments at the top and bottom with oak leaves and acorns. So again, another truly spectacular piece. But what's really amazing is that this thing is hollow. This isn't just an artifact unto itself. It's a container. It was meant to hold something, and this is what it was meant to hold. I'm going to try to unroll this. This may be tricky. Let's see here. There. You can see me do this. At least look out the window. Again, this is vellum. It is a scroll with resolutions from the Clay Festival Association. The Clay Festival Association was formed in 1845, and its sole purpose was to celebrate the birthday of Henry Clay. And they did it for years. They did it easily into the Civil War and perhaps even beyond. Every year on his birthday, they would throw a great fete, a great party, a great event. So they were an important group of supporters, and they did this, and they all signed it down at the bottom. I see we have a question about whether the people that came to the funeral of Henry Clay were political leaders or otherwise. And the fact is, there were political leaders. In fact, there was an entire Senate delegation that came to Lexington for the event. And lots of other leaders came. But there were a wide range of individuals who attended the funeral of Henry Clay. The Masons were heavily involved. Clay was a Mason. There again, another artifact adventure. It was a Masonic funeral, and Masons came from all over the country. Lots of other civic groups from various cities and towns. Sort of what we would call local guards or militias or National Guard type groups came. But a lot of them were just private citizens, just people who were interested. We know of a group of citizens from New York that came, and we have in the collection a little card with a sprig of evergreen that they cut from the grounds here at Ashland while here. And took home and wrote on there, cut at the time of Henry Clay's death. So there were lots of people here of all sorts. Another gift from the city of New York is this urn. This is perhaps the most spectacular gift. This was made by the gold and silver artisans of the city of New York. It was actually made by a man named William Adams. And it is engraved, and the engraving says, presented to Henry Clay by the gold and silver artisans of the city of New York as a tribute to their respect for the faithful and patriotic manner in which he has discharged his high public trusts, and especially for his early and untiring advocacy of protection to American industry, 1845. They actually came to Ashland and presented this. And this was after the election of 1844, so it was in some part we're sorry you didn't get elected president, but we still appreciate you kind of gift. But nonetheless, an incredible piece of work. And I should note, the eagle, try to get up here a little closer to it, that eagle is very important. William Adams, in addition to doing this piece, did the mace of the House of Representatives, the U.S. House of Representatives, which is on display when the House is in session. And it features an eagle nearly identical to ours. In fact, their curator, the curator of the House of Representatives, has come to Ashland, and we conversed about it and compared notes on our respective eagles. So that's pretty cool. I've got to like that. I'll go up here on top, maybe get a little better. Maybe not. Anyway, it's an amazing piece of work. You can see all the details in that. In a huge silver urn. So as you can see, the people of the city of New York were very, very fond of Henry Clay, as were many Americans, and they created great works of art to celebrate Henry Clay as an individual and as someone who did a great deal for our country. If there are any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them today. Again, thank you very much for tuning in. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at some of the spectacular works of art from our collection. Some of these things are not all that often seen, and it's nice to be able to do that. And I hope you have a little better understanding of how important and how well loved Henry Clay was, both here at home and elsewhere. Nice to see so many people watching. I saw my wife is watching. We've got several descendants watching. My good friend Nick is watching. Hi, Mary, one of our volunteers. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week as we continue on. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Enjoy the beautiful day. Mike McDonald, I just see here, since he asked this question, I'll grab it before I sign off. He asked about where these are stored. So the column and the portfolio are pieces that were previously on exhibit in a permanent exhibit for a long while, and then we changed gears and did some other things. So they're currently in artifact storage, which is here at Ashland. They are cared for very well there and protected. So that's what we do, and we have things that rotate off of exhibit. Unlike most museums, in the average museum, approximately 70% of the collection is in storage at any given time. And only 30% is on view. So if you go to the National Museum of American History, what you're seeing just scratches the surface. The rest of it is in storage. Here, it's reverse. Probably 80 or more % of our collection is on an exhibit because we don't have storage space. That's true of most historic sites, historic house museums. So that's different here. But these pieces are currently in storage. Pieces like this are pretty delicate, so that's a good thing to do from time to time. Thanks, Mike, for the question, and thank you all, and have a good day. Thank you very much.